Oh, good loud. I think my brain is still a little frizzle-fried from watching Exhorter absolutely slay the thrash groove world to pieces the last two nights. And wow, all I can say is talk about the fury was laid down, the Bible of thrash. It was incredible watching that shit, man. And of course, the drummer that had a part in blowing my mind was the one and only Sasha Horn, who has also played with Forbidden and is presently working with Year of the Tyrant as well as Russian Girlfriends. We got to do a good little nerd out and talk extensively about Voivod, the longest conversation about Voivod thus far. I was thinking that was going to happen at one point or another, you know? Plus the sheer awesomeness of Soundgarden, crazy list of records released in 1991, him seeing Nirvana back in the day, plus living in Chicago and then moving to New Mexico, Sasha's musical family, how he got the Exhorter gig, and the process of learning original drummer Chris Nail's drum parts, his early memories of gravitating towards thrash, plus a little background info on Forbidden, Russian Girlfriends, and Year of the Tyrant, some of one of his previous bands that he might still be working with, and a couple that he is presently working with in addition to Exhorter. And I just can't say enough about the absolute thrash fury that was on display both nights. Obviously the first night playing their first, what was originally the demo tape of 1987, then re-released in 1990 in Slaughter in the Vatican in its entirety, which was just talk about high tempos and sheer groove thrash glory. And then the following night, Pieces Parts of the Law, their second record, as well as some of the ridiculously brutal tracks off of Slaughter in the Vatican. And it's only fitting that my sponsor, New Orleans Record Press, aka NewOrleansRecordPress.com, would be your one and only stop if you're looking to put out vinyl for your band, project, whatever it is that you're looking to put out. Go on over to NewOrleansRecordPress.com to get real-time quotes, check out coloring options, mastering options, all the options. And shout out, as always, to St. Vitus Bar for putting on so many killer shows and for helping me out with so many of these podcasts. So it was great catching up with Sasha, super awesome dude, fellow Cancer, both born in 1976, no shortage of laughs, geek outs, and shit talking. Hope y'all enjoyed it as much as I did. Here we go, crash bang boom.
Crowds go mad with joy.
All right, Sasha Horn, what's happening, man?
Not much, man. Just waiting to do this tonight.
I'm fucking super excited about it. And by the way, congrats on your first name. I too have what might be considered as a girl's name. So we're in the same boat.
We have that
here.
in common. Good icebreaker.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I think it's like a speech impediment that I have, or people just don't think that my name might be Jody. But whenever I say it, people say, "Oh, nice to meet you, Jerry."
Really,
dude? And I mean, that never happened in the South. It's something I don't know if they think I have an accent.
I would have never picked up Jerry from Jody. But
I don't know. It's fucking weird. So it's strange. I don't know. You don't get any mistakes on your name?
No, spellings, yes, but
right.
Pronunciations, no.
Gotcha. Well, man, thanks for catching up with me. I'm excited to see you play with Exhorter tonight. The sound check sounded fucking badass.
Thank you very much.
Tell me a little bit about what's going on here. Y'all flew into town to play a couple of shows at St. Vitus. What's happening?
Yeah. It's first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be at St. Vitus, the legendary club, which I've heard so much about, but I've first-time visitor.
Yeah.
That's what's up. We flew in for these two shows, and then in a couple days we're playing a hometown show. I'm making quote signals with my fingers because we're from the guys in the bands in this band are from all over. So
right.
But it's a hometown show.
Going down to New Orleans?
Yes.
Are y'all going to be down there in time for Mardi Gras?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Mardi Gras?
I have never been to Mardi Gras proper.
Have you been to New Orleans before?
I have. I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
Dude, yeah.
So
I grew up down there, so I did 29 years of it, and
Wow.
before ended up in New York after Hurricane Katrina. So
Yeah.
it is gonna blow your mind.
Yes.
I hope you
Looking
can
forward
hang
to it.
out and have some fun.
I am staying an extra day so that I can recuperate from the evening. So.
Good for you, dude. You're
Yeah.
gonna absolutely enjoy it. Well, first of all, congrats on the gig.
Thank you so much.
How did you end up doing this Exhorter gig?
Actually, Jason kind of tied this together. The bass player for Exhorter. He called myself and Vinny in to do our other project, Year of the Tyrant.
Okay.
And that's how I connected with Vinny. We hit it off right from the start, just like brothers. It's all a brotherly love kind of thing here. And we got along great as people, which is like, the concrete for any musical relationship.
Sure.
And when the subject came up to maybe do that again someday, it just made sense. I mean, I still have the cassettes I bought the week they came out. The first,
That's awesome. The
Exhorter
original
albums.
cassette.
Yes,
You still have it.
I have all my cassettes.
No shit.
I'm a huge tape dork.
Oh, that's
so I have
awesome.
them, and I mean, I jumped at the chance when he was saying, I think you'd be the guy for the job. I was like, yes, please. When you decide to do this someday, please, that would be amazing.
That is sick.
That's kind of how it all came together.
How did you come across the Exhorter Slaughter in the Vatican tape, and what was your impression of it the first time you heard it?
Back then, obviously pre-internet and all that stuff. And you'd open up your inlay slips, cassette tape inlay slips, and you'd look at the thank you list.
Yeah.
What bands got were thanked, and then you'd run out and you'd try to collect all those bands. And I believe it was probably a combination of seeing their name on some thank you list and then walking into a record store and seeing that cover art and being like,
What
and
the
the
fuck?
album title itself, like, yes, I have to have this. It will piss my parents off.
Absolutely.
And et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah. And I managed it, and they're in pristine condition, so I'm proud of that.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Wow, what was your impression when you actually got home and listened to it?
It was ahead of its time, especially being a drummer back then too. Chris Nail, he's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
He's mechanical but not.
Right.
There's a certain blood flow in his playing that it had so much life. I don't know if I'm getting the words right to describe it, but
No, I agree.
it just the songwriting itself, it was different.
Yeah.
I mean, they really took a lot of where they come from and managed to inject that into their songs. And you'll hear a lot of times in interviews with Kyle and Vinny. I mean, they both, especially Kyle too, grew up hardcore punk kids and metal kids.
Right.
And there's definitely this life force in it that's punk. It's got a punk feel. It's dirty.
Oh, it's
But
super
yet it's
irreverent
still
and
on
dirty.
point.
And,
Yeah,
no
and
doubt.
that was the draw for me because I grew up, metal punk hardcore.
Right.
And it was just, it was a blazing, brutal thrash metal album that had elements of everything that I'd ever want to come together.
Yeah.
And I just loved it right from the start.
Yeah. Had your parents at the time probably read the lyrics of Slaughter in the Vatican somewhere between eating shit and lynching the Pope, they might not have totally approved of
No,
the tape.
they were. My parents are really cool. My parents are musicians too. My grandparents are musicians. I come from a long line of musicians. They're way more open minded than most parents. Occasionally they'd let me throw a cassette in on a car ride, and they'd have something to say. But other than that, it
Right.
didn't scare them away too much. They knew what I was about.
That's amazing.
But yeah.
Dude, going back to Chris Nail for a minute, it was crazy when I was originally hearing Exhorter, I guess in the late 80s, early 90s. And at the time, I remember thinking, I don't think I was even necessarily playing drums quite at that point, but the drumming sounded so extreme. And then flash forward many years later, the drum instructor that I ended up studying with in New Orleans went to school with Chris Nail at LSU. And when I would study with him, we never did any metal stuff. He wasn't a metal drummer at all, more of a jazz, Afro-Cuban, Latin, funk kind of guy, R&B, etc. Killer drummer Wayne Moreau, shout out Wayne Moreau. But he was telling me that when he was going to school with Chris, that Chris would just go through the rudiment book of with his feet. And it was so tedious. So I guess my question to you is, in learning the material, was some of it, were there some what the fuck moments?
Well, and going back, I'm gonna hit on that last question before this as well, because it kind of all ties in. I mean, one of the things that really drew me in to Slaughter in the Vatican and more specifically Chris Nail's style was you can tell, especially his footwork and just the fills he would do. It wasn't typical at the time, or it still isn't.
No,
I mean, it's
know.
still a fresh, aside from like the recording quality, because I mean we've come a long way. I mean, but yet I still love the way it sounds. I mean, it captures that moment, but his playing, you can tell he comes from like exactly what we were talking about, like that kind of background. As far as learning the parts, right off the bat, I always want to do honor to the drummer that originally played it, and obviously since he was like an idol of mine when I was a child and still is, I think I focus a little bit too much on trying like every single hit for hit.
Oh Jesus!
But I realized through learning this stuff that what would do a true kind of justice to the material is to kind of, and a shout out to Chris through my playing, is to say I'm going to take what you did and capture those moments, and I'm going to inject a little of myself into it too.
Right.
And that kind of, I'd say, take the pressure off, but not so much the pressure as just felt right. It just felt right.
You have to inject a little bit of yourself into it to keep yourself interested in, just and feel invested in it as well, to have some of your playing in
exactly. And I felt like like it would be, it would be an homage.
Sure.
To him too, to say, look what you did for me, and look how you've influenced my playing, and I'm just thank you.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy going back to Slaughter in the Vatican as well, and it's apropos that we would even kind of dwell on it for a little while as y'all are playing the album in its entirety tonight, which is going to be sick to hear. The story behind that, I don't know how much do you know of that. I'm assuming some of it, but the original cassette tape the demo came out in '87.
That's right.
And then they re-recorded it around like late '80s, and then re-recorded it again in '90 or something like that. So it was like recorded, re-recorded.
Yeah.
And I read an interview where Chris Nail was talking about punching in the drums, which is such a crazy concept.
Yeah.
And he didn't record it to clicks originally, so then there are times where there's just dead air, and it's like, where's this part coming?
Yeah.
Can you imagine? That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's even stuff like that. I know I can't. It's really weird to think of it like that now, but I mean that's just a testament to how great these players were back then.
I mean, that's crazy.
I mean, you're playing on feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, coming when I started seriously going into the studio. I mean, engineers they put you to the click so they can take care of things later.
Right.
Or,
exactly.
And do some surgery on it, but it's just amazing, especially listening to the album. I mean, it's tight, but it's loose where it should be. It's like it's perfect.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
I love listening to the demo tape of it as well, which is super raw.
And it's been a long time since I listened to that.
Yeah. Go back and
I need to revisit.
Dude,
I
go back
definitely
and
do.
check it out. One of my buddies, I had been listening to just the original recording and wasn't really that aware about the demo tape. And before there was even YouTube, one of my buddies had his original cassette tape and he played it for me. And I was like, wow, this is fucking raw and it's so explosive. And it was before, like I said, once again, they had re-recorded the parts all separately and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of natural and just super raw.
Yeah.
It's badass.
Yes, I need to go do this immediately.
Right on. And then tomorrow night, y'all are playing The Law in its entirety, right?
Yeah.
That's killer. A different, they had slowed down a little bit at that time, a little more groovy on the second record, but still the thrash parts and all the crazy shit.
Yeah, I mean, and it's, talking in the inner circle with Vinny and Kyle, it's definitely more of like a progressive album.
Right.
It captures more in terms of just the tones and the feel that they had always really wanted. So it gave them a chance to kind of stretch out songwriting and with just the overall sound of it.
Yeah.
So it's a different beast, but obviously it has the Exhorder stamp all over it. It's just them branching out.
Yeah.
And it's just, it was fun learning both albums, but they really are different beasts. You know, it's just, and it was refreshing to be able to not have to go to a second album and kind of just play stuff that was like the same old.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just exciting. It's exciting. It makes it exciting.
Right.
Keeps it exciting.
My mind betrays no sympathy, and it's about as love too. My blood's retaliation keeps me over you. My children beg of gladness, and soon the wild to die. I am the cross, I am the pain that leaves your side.
Now, one of the other bands that you play in, are you still doing Forbidden?
Actually, Forbidden's been on ice for years now.
Oh, really? It was just you did that for a stretch?
Yeah, I did it for a stretch, and we intended on keeping it going, and we'd written half of the next album, Craig and I and Steve, and it sounded amazing. and the singer, Russ, who's been the singer forever, just needed to take a step back for some personal stuff, and it just kind of, when we had things planned, and it wasn't supposed to be just a stretch. It was gonna be forbidden forever, and it just ended up kind of taking this hiatus that seems to have no end.
Right.
And I always kind of hold on to maybe someday we can finish that album, because I think the fans would love it. It was a good throwback album, but it was very fresh.
Right.
So that hasn't been happening as of lately. But
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And Forbidden was yet another one of those like OG like Bay Area thrash bands, right?
Yes.
That's killer. So there is kind of a full circle there in that like them and it as well as a band like Exodus was influencing Exhorder, and then it's all come back full circle.
Yeah.
That's
It's been a wild ride.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, man, I mean, you're playing all this thrash stuff. What was the band that led you to thrash? When did you first start getting into it?
Shit. I mean, I'm before. Yeah, God. I mean, I'm a third generation drummer, so I got my first drum kit when I was 2 years old. Like I've been playing.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Before that, it was kitchen utensils on pots and pans. I think my parents just got sick of it. My dad had drum sets around, but then I needed something that obviously was smaller, so they got me my first like baby kit. I've been playing metal since I can remember. Before that, I mean, my dad was a classic rock guy. That turned into a world music jazz guy. But I mean, he used to tour in bands all over the world.
What did he play?
Drums.
Oh,
He's
no
a drum. My
shit.
grandfather's a drummer. My grandmother's a jazz singer.
Oh, that's why you said third generation.
Third generation
Holy
drummer.
shit.
Yeah. My mom played bass. My grandma was like a jazz singer. I mean, it's just all up in the family history.
That's amazing.
So I have a cousin who lived with me when we were very, very young. I must have been like 10, 11 years old, and he was a few years older, and he brought thrash metal into my life. And I'll never.
What record? Do you remember the record?
God, I mean, he had all the, oh man.
It was like a lot of the Bay Area thrash, probably.
I mean,
it was late 80s.
Yeah,
or
Slayer, the old Slayer.
Right.
I think there were just a couple that he kind of got my salivary glands going, and and then from then on it was just the ultimate hunt. I was at record stores every day.
Yeah.
Just stealing money to go buy cassette tapes. Sorry, mom and dad. I stole some change and then went to the currency exchange and cashed it in for bills and went and bought cassette tapes. But
nice.
It's just since I can remember. Like I played rock, but then as soon as I heard metal, it was harder and it's something I wanted to do, and I just kept at it. And it's been amazing to be able to play for. I mean, I used to air drum in my bedroom to Forbidden Evil and the Exhorder albums, and now I'm playing in these bands. It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's like dreams come true.
You are like one of maybe two out of I guess I'm 70 plus episodes at this point where I've talked to drummers who actually ended up playing in not one but two of the bands that they absolutely loved as a kid.
Yeah, I know.
So that's bizarre.
It's bizarrely amazing. I can't believe I'm here. I mean, I've worked hard to get to where I'm at, but at the same time, it's like I keep humble. Yeah. I'm in a practice room, with the Exhorder guys, or when I was playing with the Forbidden guys, and I mean, it never ceases to amaze me when in between songs I'll look up and I'm like, I'm actually playing with these people who I just listen to. I never would have thought, but you daydream as a kid about someday maybe I'll get the call, and it happened a few times, and it's amazing. I'm blessed. I'm truly blessed to be able to do this.
That's killer, man. Yeah. Now, you're originally from Chicago, but you've been in New Mexico for some time.
Yeah, for almost 9 years now, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, I miss home. I go to Chicago. All my family and my friends are in Chicago, so I go there quite often.
I feel that way going back to Louisiana.
Yeah, it's nice to go back. You got to go back to your roots, and you always got to have that. So I've been in New Mexico for almost 9 years now. I have a 5-year-old daughter, and she's what keeps me there. Yeah, and that's the best reason in the world to do that. But it doesn't put up a wall with doing music these days. I mean, so many bands do things scattered all over the world when your band members are scattered all over the world. So
certainly one of the positives of the internet, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That you can actually pull it off.
Yeah.
Because I got to say, we were talking about it a little bit earlier. My mother lives in, you're in Albuquerque. My mom's in Santa Fe.
Right.
She's originally from Louisiana as well, but she moved, Colorado, Kentucky, Arizona, Tucson, and then to Santa Fe. She just moves constantly. It's just crazy. But in going out there, and I'd been out there previously, and I think it's amazing out there. Yeah. Because I love mountain biking and whitewater rafting and doing all that crazy shit that drummers probably shouldn't do.
Yeah, exactly.
And I have literally been to the hospital from some of those and fucked my hands up. It's like the one thing. I was like, I could have, but I mean, you need all your limbs. Like, what do you?
That's why I'm scared to do that stuff. I mean, I grew up on in the heart of Chicago. My pastimes were, Believe it or not, I grew up on like rap music too. So breakdancing, graffiti, skateboarding, all like the inner city, you know, concrete and asphalt like stuff. So I've never been like a hiking guy or a skiing guy or a mountain climbing guy. So that's where
You
like
moved
living,
to the place where people move to do that.
I know. I was about to say I moved to the Mecca for that stuff, but it just doesn't do it for me. So it's temporary. Man. I'll eventually get out of there. But yeah,
I hear you, man. Santa Fe is a trip and totally different from Albuquerque in that like. Santa Fe is kind of like a new age sort of semi-wealthy snowbird town where I feel like, as I was saying, lots of no shortage of sort of older lesbians that all seem to drive Subaru station wagons.
And I told you earlier, you pinned it. It's weird. It's an hour away from Albuquerque, but it's like a whole other world.
It's a whole different world.
But I really like I grew up in the art scene in Chicago too, and hanging out in art galleries. My parents are artists and musicians.
Yeah.
Like, so Santa Fe kind of captures that. There's a lot of art galleries. There's
tons.
You know,
it's crazy.
Yeah, and I love it because Albuquerque kind of lacks that. You know,
right.
So it's kind of nice to go back to Santa Fe. It's only an hour away, and it kind of gives me a taste of home in that sense. But I mean, Santa Fe is beautiful, and it's becoming not such an old folks town now.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like it's got some new life injected into it.
Yeah,
so,
bands are actually, I know some punk rock bands and some local bands here from New York that when going through New Mexico or in Texas, they'll route actually through Santa Fe and play like a club or something. I was like, damn, my mom has been living there for like 5-6 years. I go out there at least once a year. I didn't know that there was anything like that.
It's a newer thing. It's only like I feel like in the last year,
it's
become
be,
that.
I feel like.
It's very recent. Totally.
Yeah. New Mexico is so cool, man. I love it out there. I've been out to Utah as well, man. I don't know if you've done.
I have rolled on tour. I've been through Utah, but haven't spent much time there.
Dude, I went out to this small little village, probably
more
village.
Like village.
Yeah, due to the population, if we're being specific about it, called Escalante.
I've heard
and
of
it's
it.
it's out near where you know the dude that got pinned against the boulder and had to cut his arm off.
Yeah.
Out there.
Wow.
So we were out there and like literally, I thought I was gonna die, and my wife at the time, now divorced, probably had something to do with it. It was like, dude, you come out here and straight up die, and like,
wow,
the buzzards are gonna find you. Like that's gonna be the first thing that finds you. There's
Ouch.
just, dude, there's no one.
I
out
don't
there.
want to go to there.
Oh man, well, if one day I would suggest just going somewhere to maybe see a little bit of it.
Oh sure, yeah,
because it is truly fucking Mars.
Life's
on this
short.
planet.
You should experience things.
Yeah,
even like
there's
that.
no,
yeah.
you won't see that anywhere else. Literally on the planet.
Okay,
it only exists
sold.
there.
Sold.
It's the colors. It's this. It might as well be the surface of Mars.
I don't know how deep you want to get into the landscape talks. New Mexico, I won't take away from it that it's a beautiful place in the sense where you got the mountains.
Yeah.
The colors of the sky are amazing. It kind of puts you back in your place and makes you humble.
Absolutely.
So I have taken the good with what I would consider the bad, which is just my opinion because I don't do outdoorsy stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think it's always good I say for kids that grow up in the city, like all kids really should probably go see prisons at one point or another.
Yeah.
They should go to landfills to see how much trash humans generate. And they should certainly go out and go to state parks and go to see nature and be reminded of the fragile nature of our very existence and how quickly it can be wiped away.
Totally agree.
I think the world would be a better place.
Yes.
And I think rural people would benefit from actually going to the city as well.
Yeah, both sides of it.
I think
absolutely.
And that kind of has manifested in the sort of dichotomy of conversation in today.
Yeah.
It's everyone screaming at each other from opposite sides and just stagnation.
That's exactly what I thought. It would do the world great. It would do great things.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, the bar's pretty low for running for president. I'm actually born July 4th, 1976. That's as American as it gets.
Oh, you're 76?
July 4th, no less. So
wow. Okay, I'm a 76er.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. When's
July
your birthday?
21st.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Are you on the cusp or are you a Leo?
Cusp.
Are you a Cancer or Leo?
Cancer, Leo.
Oh, okay.
The cusp, yeah. I'm sitting
right
in there. Yeah.
Right on. Oh, there you go. All right. I knew I liked you, man.
Yeah,
That's
I was
what
about
it
to say
is.
the same
It has
thing.
nothing to do with anything else. I just like like-minded people. One of the things I wanted to ask you, it was interesting. I was looking at when Slaughter in the Vatican came out and when The Log came out, and I was thinking about, I certainly love all kinds of classic rock. I've been collecting all kinds of vinyl, specifically from like 75, 76, like middle sort of like Foghat records, all kinds of just classic groove rock shit.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about, it's like, wow, that was a fucking great year for records. And then I started looking at 1991, which is kind of in between when Slaughter in the Vatican and The Law came out.
Yeah.
And check out the list of records that came in 91. I don't know if you, off the top of your head, just have a year, but I actually looked at it, so I'll run some past you.
Go for it,
so
please.
91 was fucking crazy, all right? So on the heavier spectrum, you have Metallica Black Album, Sepultura Arise, Voivod Angel Rot, not that that's that heavy, but kind of off.
But it's a great album.
Great album.
Yeah.
Death Human came
Great.
out that year. COC Blind.
Wow.
And then on like the rock side of it, then you have Red Hot Chili Peppers, Blood Sugar Sex Magic, Nirvana Nevermind,
which always comes to mind for some reason. Yeah.
Pearl Jam 10, Bad Motorfinger from Soundgarden, Smashing
God, Soundgarden's one
Pumpkin
of my
Gish.
favorite. Yeah, Smashing
You know,
Pumpkins,
and
love
then
'em.
in the middle kind of all that, you had like Primus Sailing the Seas of Cheese, Fishbone's Reality of My Surroundings.
Nice. I have that.
You had the Jesus Lizard and Naldrin's put out 2 records. They put out Goat and Bullhead,
Love
respectively.
Jesus Lizard, yeah.
So like, dude, what the fuck was
What a-
happening
what
in
a great
1991? Holy shit, right?
Yeah, you know, it's all like I totally agree. I love that year for music, for
Yeah.
what came out, and you just named many of my favorite albums from that
I mean,
year.
god damn,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable, right?
Yeah,
I look back and, you know, I'm obviously 41 now, and I think, you know, once again, I love the 70s stuff, but man, I'm telling you, 1991 was a fucking crazy
I'm gonna
year for
have to
music.
go and steadily revisit that year now that we're talking about
Dude,
it. because
just, Joe, look at this shit. I'm forgetting tons of shit.
No, I know there's tons more, but yeah, you know, it's funny too because a lot of not to say metal's downfall, but Nirvana came and kind of like
Oh, it did. It killed a lot.
It was a tsunami,
Right.
for a lot of things.
Because
you know?
one of the Use Your Illusion records came out that year, and Guns N' Roses, I think, even had. I mean, they were having their own internal issues
Sure,
obviously, at the
but
time with the fucking egos, but
that didn't help.
Nirvana killed. I mean, hair metal was like they were fucked.
I want to say single-handedly wiped it out,
It
but it was
kinda
everything.
did.
It was like Smashing Pumpkins and
Yeah.
Nirvana, and I mean, obviously coming from Chicago, Smashing Pumpkins, like I heard them immediately, but I
Right.
love that stuff because I grew up on a lot of other things, not just metal, you know.
Yeah.
And Nirvana, I loved Nirvana. I mean, I actually saw them when they first started that tour. They played the Metro in Chicago.
Wow,
And
really?
this is before Nirvana really blew up, so it was a
Wow.
small club. It's fucking amazing. I mean,
Whoa.
just being able to see that then.
Yeah.
I mean, and I loved, like, I hate calling it grunge, but I mean, Soundgarden's one of my favorite bands.
Oh,
Nirvana's
get the
one of my
fuck out
favorite
of town,
bands.
dude.
you
Soundgarden
know?
in particular for me, it was like.
Yup.
I mean, I don't know of someone passing where I got so upset that I was tearing up
Yeah,
about it.
same here, man.
But when
I-
Chris Cornell passed, I was like, man. And
Same.
I told myself, and I told my wife, I was like, I'm not going to listen to Soundgarden records today. And then I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I feel like I owe it. I owe
Yeah.
it to them. And maybe even to myself. I don't know who I owe it to, but I feel like I have to listen
like
to
you
it.
owe somebody.
Oh, man. And I was just like, and I've never stopped
Such a
listening
bummer.
to Soundgarden.
Yeah, no, same.
And I mean, I've discussed it a little bit on the podcast before, but I mean, if you want to talk about a guy that could sing, was a performer, could write songs front to back,
Yes.
all the everything, and be a killer lyricist,
Yeah.
you're only talking about maybe a handful of human beings that have ever been able to do it.
Yep, I
Chris
agree.
Cornell was one of those fucking
He was.
guys.
It was a very. I've never gotten so upset about like a, you know, celebrity, but a known person, musician passing, and it was. Yeah, I heard about it early that morning, like when the news first came out. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, same
and,
here.
it was a blow, man. I mean, yeah, I've never stopped listening to them. They're a huge influence, and that was. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of bands that had that metal edge. I mean, Soundgarden definitely had a metal edge. I
Fuck
mean,
yeah.
Bad Motorfinger appealed to that. I knew
Yeah.
so many headbangers that would never even think of listening to anything like that. But when Bad Motorfinger came out,
Yeah.
they all had the cassette tape.
Yeah.
Because there was something about it that was metal. It had metal to it.
Yeah.
There's metal in it.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, even the biggest metalheads generally probably like some of the bands that might have had some of those influences, whether it was Zeppelin or whoever else. And
Yeah.
I mean, but the heaviness and the groove of it, and then the vocals. I mean, it was just the fucking complete package, man.
It was
Soundgarden was
totally.
insanity.
Totally.
It was
Yeah.
so goddamn good.
I know. Yeah, it's sad. Sad.
Fuck, man. For those listening to this, I'm wearing a Voivod shirt, and you had mentioned that. And I've talked to someone recently about Voivod. When did you come across Voivod?
Voivod, I got into Voivod when Dimension Hate Trust came out.
Okay,
I still
so
have
that
all my
was-
Voivod tapes.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. That's badass.
I got into Dimension Hate Trust, and just ever since. And then, of course, I backtracked into the earlier albums too. But I mean, I kept with them. And it's funny, this whole Soundgarden thing. I saw Voivod for the first time when they headlined the Voivod Soundgarden Faith No More tour.
Whoa!
My dad took me to go see him.
What?
It was for on the Nothing Face tour.
That's killer. That might be my favorite one. Fuck, I love that record.
And then my dad, being open-minded musician, he loves Nothing Face too, and he bought me the ticket to go see him. Plus, he bought Soundgarden Super Unknown when it came out. I mean, he was just very open-minded. I owe so much of who I am and my musical taste to him, but I saw them on that tour, and I'll never forget it. Besides the Nirvana and maybe a couple others, one of the best shows I've ever attended.
Wow,
but,
really?
So I just followed Voivod ever since. How could you not? I mean, talk about a band that really crossed, like, punk and metal.
Holy shit.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Voivod's like the epitome of that.
Yeah.
How could I not love that?
Right.
You know?
And the psychedelic nature of it as well. Like, they did the Pink Floyd cover on Nothing Face.
Yeah,
Like,
which was incredible.
so badass.
So badass. And then they branched out even further with Angel Rat. And,
Right.
But I loved it. They were so good at it. They were so good at it.
It's funny, man. I talk to like heavy guitarists and stuff, and I'm kind of reiterating something of a recent conversation that I had on the podcast. But fuck it.
Yeah, whatever.
It's funny when I talk to guitarists and they're not really familiar with Dynasty Moore's playing,
man.
and I'm like, man,
He's amazing.
if you want to hear crazy chords and juxtaposed with heavy riffs and that sort of crazy syncopated style,
that dude is from another planet.
dude, no one
Incredible.
played that prior to him. I don't think anyone's done it since, other than the guy that Voivod got.
I was just about
to replace.
I was about
him.
to say he's the only one, because I saw them like shortly after he took Piggy's place.
Yeah.
And it was jaw dropping how he was nailing it, and not only nailing it, but nailing it like it was natural for him to play that. I was like, this guy's he's doing Piggy like a justice by stepping in and doing this. But Piggy's amazing. No one's done it since.
No. He created his own vocabulary.
Yes, exactly. That's the best way to put it. You put it perfectly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Fucking A. Dude, you're one of the first guys that I talked to that would have even seen Voivod. I saw them for the first time only recently.
Oh, wow.
When they came to New York, because I don't know. They might have come through New Orleans at one point or another, and maybe I just didn't know about it. I don't know, but I had never had the chance to see them back in the day, despite them being one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
So that's killer talking to you.
It was a treat. I wish you could have seen it. I wish you could have seen it. It was just, to this day, it's so bizarre that they were headlining that tour. I guess that was the album where I think they were on Mechanics, which was a sub label of a major, and I'm forgetting right now the label that was the daddy label. But it's just weird because they put him out on that tour thinking Voivod would be like the next huge thing,
right?
And so they were headlining. It was Faith No More, then Soundgarden with Voivod headlining. That's bizarre to think of.
That is, I'm having a hard time even wrapping my head around it.
It was bizarre.
Yeah,
but it was an amazing show. It was amazing. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Very cool. I'm glad I was there.
Well, we talked a lot about, obviously, Exhorder and Forbidden, and then a good bit about Voivod itself. Yep. What other bands are you presently playing with, or what other projects do you have going on right now?
I play. I have a band in Albuquerque, punk band. Punk term used loosely. We're actually more, dare I say, I could hear a lot of our songs like on the radio. But yet it's not like, Fall Out Boy's not even anywhere close to what they used to be. But it's more of like a punk thing. It's more of a rock thing. It's very song-oriented and
cool.
Very melodic. But it's fun to I don't want to always do just metal. I want to step out and do other things because it helps playing on both sides.
Absolutely.
To be able to do that. Other than that, right now, it's just Year of the Tyrant with Vinny and Jason from Exhorder.
Nice.
And Dan Nelson that sang with Anthrax for a while.
Awesome.
And then obviously Exhorder, Forbidden. Someday, hopefully, we'll do something again.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think that's it. I've always been involved in so many projects at one time.
Yeah.
If someone asks me, sometimes I forget about one because I can't name all of them. But that's what I have going right now.
Yeah.
It keeps me busy.
It's encouraging to know that you can stay busy and live in a sort of like relatively isolated place. I feel like New Mexico, and
Sure.
that you can still get gigs and figure that all out and that makes me feel better for later in life. That
Yeah.
I might still be out, work some shit out. If
Like
I
we
live.
said earlier, though, with the internet age has really opened up the possibilities, which is why, maybe 30 years ago there'd be no way someone would want to take on a drummer that lived like 1,000 miles away. But these days it really doesn't scare people because that's kind of just what people do now.
Right,
You
exactly.
find the right person for the job. You're not going to let distance get in your way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, man, I was watching you play. Are you by any chance a fan of Shannon Larkin, who played in Rat Child America, and then recently, I guess
my
he
God,
did
I haven't heard that name in forever.
Yeah. Well, he played. Yeah, if you go back and listen to the 3D record, he's playing some crazy.
I will
badass.
do that because I haven't heard even the name Red Child America in so long. But now I'm going to have to go listen. I'm curious.
He's super crazy with stick flipping and stuff.
Yeah.
But you actually remind me, the both of you are very thin.
Yeah.
But hit hard.
Yeah.
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 And I was watching you play, and I was like, my God, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Shannon
Cool.
Larkin.
Well, thank you. Now I'm going to have to go listen. It's been so long since I've heard
Shannon
of him play.
Larkin's
Jeez.
a bad motherfucker,
Okay,
man.
I'll go check it out.
The Wrath Child America 3D record has got some
I'm
killer
all
playing
over
on
it.
it.
That's going to be my plane ride music home.
There you go,
Yeah,
dude.
So thanks for that.
Nice. Have you been able to stay relatively injury-free in your drumming career? Have you had any-
Relatively. I've got into a couple bad car accidents that
Oh, shit.
I feel sometimes like someone's looking down on me and protecting me because there were a couple times when I probably should have been mangled, but I wasn't. Yeah, and I really want to start skating again, but I'm probably not going to do it because
Right.
I really got to watch out.
Right.
It's things I want to do that I know will be like the most fun things ever, but I got to think about, this might not be such a great idea.
Yeah.
So
I hear you. My bass player was telling me, we were talking about like touring in our band or whatever, just playing out of town shows. He's like, yeah, great thing to do. Because I always want to just go and hang out in a bar and drink and try to not get too wasted before the gig. Hopefully it doesn't.
That
pan
could
out
lead
that
to
way.
injury though too.
Exactly.
So be
That's its
careful.
own version
That's
of
exactly.
injury. But he was like, yeah, you could just go like skating or whatever during that. I was like, dude, one slip in my ankle and the gig is over.
No,
what are
I
you
know,
talking
dude.
about?
Every time I go out with the band from Albuquerque, Russian Girlfriends, all of us always want to bring our boards. And I'm literally like about to get in the van, and I decided that's not such a good idea. Don't do it. And it's so sad because I really want to.
Yeah.
It's probably best if I don't.
Yeah.
So I stay away.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you, man. Cool. Thanks so much for talking to me, man. I'm super looking forward to the show tonight.
Thank you so much.
Like I
Thank you
said,
for having me, man. Thank you
course.
so much. It was a great talk.
Fuck yeah. Sound check sounded badass.
Thank you.
Psyched to hear the whole record in its entirety, and hopefully I'll come back tomorrow night and double dip.
That would be amazing.
Right on, dude. Good talking to you, man.
All right, man. You too. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in as always. Many thanks to Sasha Horn for being a super cool dude and taking the time to speak with me, and then absolutely just laying waste and peeling the paint off the walls with Exhorter 2 nights in a row. Jesus Christ. Talk about the fucking ultimate thrash fury. What an incredible, nostalgic night and absolute reminder of how ahead of its time Slaughter and the Vatican and the Law were and how influential they were, and just, my God, unbelievable. Be sure to be on the lookout for Year of the Tyrant and or Russian Girlfriends, and hopefully Exhorder playing some more shows. Thrash World needs that shit. I can say that much. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one. Crash, bang, boom!